Professional racers are pretty good, that's why they're professionals. So let's take a look in this video at what you can learn just from watching those pros in their races and try to apply to your riding to become a better rider. Looking fast doesn't always mean that you are fast, and World Cup downhill really shows this off. If you've seen any of the Red Bull live feeds, of course it's great to have those live times as you're watching the run. So we saw actually the first round of the year at Maribor, Brooke McDonald looked pretty sketchy, looked super fast, but actually you can see on the screen that he's losing time. So sometimes it doesn't look that fast to necessarily mean that it is fast. It's just a case of carrying speed, trying to be smooth. Loic Bruni did that really well, of course better than anyone. There are anomalies to this, people like Danny Hart who looks fast, can look a bit sketchy and is really fast, but sometimes getting sketchy, getting out of shape isn't the fastest way of doing it. So try and think about that when you're riding. No doubt you've probably got a mate who always looks fast and is super leery, but sometimes looking a bit more boring, but actually taking a really nice smooth line and flowing down the trail is a quicker way of doing it. So there's a tip if you actually want to be fast. Sometimes it can actually look a little bit more boring. Actually, another one from Maribor, Reece Wilson tucked a lot down that last section, so just chilling on his bike and actually made time than other people. But some people are more concerned about looking fast, nothing wrong with that. That's a case of trying to smash every corner, pedal everywhere. Number two, learning how to pace your rides. Now you can look at most races for this, but I'm thinking Enduro World Series riders, they have liaisons in between the time stages where they really need to get to the top of the hill using the least amount of energy possible. Yes, they've got to get there within a certain amount of time, but really it's trying to save their energy whilst they're doing it. Also, cross-country World Cup racers, obviously they do ride at a super high pace for the whole race and they put in some sprint attacks, but they've got to know they're going to last the whole race. And they're super fit riders and they've got a whole lot of experience to know they'll get there. So for us normal riders, what does that mean, pacing your rides? Well, it's trying to not get into that battle on the first climb with your friends and absolutely killing yourself so the rest of the ride is almost a write-off. And that can happen, you know, not just on the first climb, all the way around. It's dead easy to start racing your friends. So think about your fitness. With a bit of experience, you'll know how far you can ride and how hard you can go and try and pace it for that whole duration of the ride. You can pace yourself off feel, but the better way of doing it is of course using something like a power meter or a heart rate monitor. Power meters, not many mountain bikers have them. They can be a bit expensive. Heart rate monitors are much more accessible, they're cheaper basically. So your Garmin or your computer is probably going to have that option to add in a heart rate strap as well and have that on your dashboard in front of you. My Garmin watch also does this, so most fitness trackers also do this. Basically you can just keep an eye on your heart rate so you get to learn basically what your max heart rate is, but also what your average heart rate for some rides is, and you'll know if you're going hard. So you can keep an eye on that early on in the ride to make sure you don't go too high and save that max heart rate for those big efforts. Learning a bit of mechanical sympathy, but also how to look after your bike. We see this a lot at cross-country races and World Cup Enduro where riders may break their bike in the middle of a race and they've got to know how to fix it to carry on with that race. We saw it a lot actually at the Cape Epic, especially where you've got two riders in a team. One rider will get a puncture, both riders will stop, jump off their bikes and start fixing it so they can stay in that race. I did an Ask the Pros recently where I asked everyone if there's any part of the bike they didn't know how to fix. Actually Steve Peat said he didn't know how to really set up his gears, which after how long, 25, 30 years of riding bikes, you think it's pretty unexcusable. However, Steve does race downhill, so he's probably never going to have to do that in the middle of a race. But most pro racers really know how to look after their bike. And for us normal riders, again, really it's something, if you're out, back and beyond, you need to have the tools and the knowledge about how to get back on the road. One thing I've noticed with modern professional racers, especially if you compare them to pros from like say 10 years ago, is they're all really good all-round riders. So people like Matthew van der Poel does everything, obviously road as well, but downhill and enduro riders, it's almost interchangeable. People like Eddie Masters, Martin Mays, Jill Kintner, who's raced 4-cross and now doing really well in Enduro. Cecile Ravenel has raced in cross-country World Cups and Enduro. Really good all-round riders, but also World Cup pro cross-country racers now. Look at those courses, they can be pretty gnarly downhills, tech climbs, even pump track sections. You see people like Yolanda Neff, Sam Gaze, Nina Schurter of course, they look just as home on a pump track as they do on a gnarly bit of single track. I think your everyday mountain biker can take inspiration from that and try and vary your riding as much as possible. I know I do, I try and ride cross country, downhill, enduro, a bit of road. I think it all helps. And also try and practice your weaknesses a bit so you become a better all-round rider. Finally, another way to learn from the pros is actually do it directly and go for a skills coaching session with pros. There are many ex-pros that do it. I used to do it when I finished racing, but there's some pros, people like Sam Hill, Johan Borelli, who still do it now whilst they're racing. But it might be worth a Google, see if there's any ex-pros in your area where you can go and ride with them. They'll look at your riding and identify ways that you can improve. Definitely gonna help you along, I would have thought. If you want to see a video where I ask the pros some questions, click up there for that one. If you want to see how to ride like Kurt Voorhees, and it's pretty difficult, I'll tell you that. Blake did a video with him, click down there for that one. Thumbs up if you want to learn to be a better mountain bike rider, and hit that subscribe button if you've not done it already.